Alright, CNT125 Troubleshooting Lab. We just got done delivering the configuration to our switch and the configuration to our router. So we're now actually going to start in on troubleshooting portion 1. We're assuming the role of like an IT admin working on a network to bring it back online, to get all the network functions working correctly. We're going to kind of go through this in a layer 1 to 7 approach, start with the easiest stuff and work to the harder. And we're going to use the map on the next page as our guide. This is how things should be. They very well may not be that way, but this is how they should be. So this is what we're going to try to get everything up and running for this site, but this is going to be our guide on how things should be connected and configured. So we're going to be referencing this. Alright, so first layer, layer 1. Layer 1 is really about our cable connections and ports, if you will. Our cable, are we using the right type of cable, or the right cables in the right ports kind of thing. So starting through, we're just going to start with the PCs. We're going to look at PC for VLAN 10 PC, VLAN 30 PC, and so forth. Okay, so looking at my map, VLAN 10 PC. Now ideally we'd be into a phone, into a network. We're bypassing that. We're taking the PC right into the switch. We're taking this PC right into the switch. Okay, so in here, PC1, we have it as I look at it right now. PC1 is plugged into switch port 1. And as I look at it right now, the cable's plugged in, but I don't see any link lights on the switch. So what I might do is just try that cable, reseat it, make sure it's seated on the workstation, but I don't see any link lights on. Okay, well, we've checked the cable, we know it's in the right port. I would do the same thing for the VLAN 30 PC. The VLAN 30 PC, we were told earlier to plug VLAN 30 into switch port 20. So I'm going to take this PC that I'm using right now, and I'm going to move it over to that VLAN 20 port. Or excuse me, that port, what was it up here? Port 20. So I'm going to plug it into port 20. When it's plugged into port 20, I do see a link light come on. So your VLAN 30 PC, as I look at it, port 20, I do see a link light on, so that's promising. But when I look at the map a little closer, my VLAN 30, again, we're using this VLAN 30 PC as the wireless part of our network. This should be in port 21, because that's where the access point would be. So I have a feeling that is not the correct port. So I'm going to move this to port 21, where maybe it should actually be. And when I do that, we will hopefully get... Do we get a link light on that one? No, we don't. We don't get a link light on that one. Okay. So we have it connected into that port, that VLAN 20, VLAN 30 port, but I don't have a link light on that one either. Okay, so, alright, we've checked that much. Let's now check the switch connection, the switch to the router. If I look at my connections earlier on, we were told to plug into the switch connected to the router, should be on port 23, but let's look at our map. Let's look at what the plan should be. The switch into the router, it looks like the switch should be configured trunking on 24. I'm going to bet that's really where it should be. So I'm going to move the patch cable down to port 24. Again, I don't get any link light, but I'm going to assume that's where it should be, in this port 24. That's at least closer to real. Let's check the router now. The router to switch should be fast Ethernet 00, so I'm checking the router. It is, that's good. And the connection out to the ISP, this should be on the 01 port, and it is. Good. But again, none of these have link lights on. Okay, but I've at least verified they're in the correct port. That's the starting point. I need to make sure they're in the right port. Now, I don't actually have much connectivity because I'm not getting any link lights yet. Alright, well, as we move on to layer 2, hopefully we can restore some connectivity to these links and actually get link lights on these. Alright, so there's kind of my layer 1 check so far, trying to get things cabled into the right port. Always look at your map and verify. Trace it through and double check. Alrighty. So there's layer 1.